So we're holding Parshas Shelach in Likutei Torah, Parshas Shelach in Chutz La'aretz, and the spies are explaining the Chassidus in a very different way. Chassidus gets to the bottom of their taina and why it was wrong. First of all, it's well known, these were tremendous leaders. These were the people that Moshe Rabbeinu chose out of the entire Bnei Yisrael. And they represented the entire Bnei Yisrael. No one else could have done better. And the Rebbe even has a question about, as a sikh explaining, that why did Moshe Rabbeinu pray for Yeshua? Because Yeshua was his Talmud, so he gave an extra prayer, because it's a reflection of him. But the other ones, when he sent them, automatically he's giving them brachas and prayers and tefillas and everything. That they should win, that they should do the right thing. Why didn't they? These were great, great people. These were people who wanted Klal Yisrael to succeed. These were people who wanted to do Hashem's work. In fact, the Rebbe points out that, and just on a simple level, by the way, before that, a lot of the stuff that we learn about Emunah, we learn from their mistake, but we learn from them. And that's because they meant L'Shem Shemayim. The Rebbe points out that where it says that they don't have Chelek in Olam Haba, it's different than in other places, and it means that they actually have not a Chelek, but the whole thing. These are people who cared tremendously about the Jewish people, and their fundamental mistake was this: they said, let the Jewish people serve Hashem spiritually. They're in the desert. They have the pillar of fire leading them at night, the cloud pillar leading them by the day. They have open miracles. They have the man coming down from heaven, water, everything else. And they're still messing up. If they go into Eretz Yisrael, the fact that the people are big and the fruit is big is just a mashal, it's just showing it in our eyes that spiritually it would destroy them, that the physicality would be so big that it would totally devour them up. And on this, Kalev and Yeshua, and remember Kalev himself is praying that he shouldn't fall into their trap, because it was a hard trap not to fall into. Kalev is praying, and he says to the people, when he comes back, it's ma'id. The land is great. That serving Hashem spiritually is one thing, but serving Hashem physically, that is as good as serving Hashem spiritually, plus it's a whole other level. And that is the general explanation of the Meraglim. And of course, their mistake was that they didn't have faith in Moshe Rabbeinu, and that's why they should have learned from Miriam. Keirach, by the way, it doesn't say so clearly. Keirach should have learned from the Meraglim, because Keirach's complaint was the exact opposite. And that we could discuss next week. But the Meraglim wanted to serve Hashem spiritually. And so too, now let's continue with Likutei Torah. Inyan Meraglim shahayu nisiyei oida anshe shem chulu. The idea of the Meraglim, these were the leaders of the Eidah. These were the people who were known, which means they were known spiritually. Why didn't they want to go into Eretz Yisrael? And also to understand the Madrega, the Mahus, the Madrega of Eretz Yisrael. It's written, this is the land that I gave to you, a land flowing with milk and honey. What's the Shabach? How do you praise Eretz Yisrael as being a land flowing with milk and honey? Isn't there more? Most of the mitzvahs maisiyis, most of them, and the majority, the overwhelming majority, are totally in Eretz Yisrael. All the karbanis, trumas, meiseris, and everything else, befrat and yanizraim, v'kodshim. This midbar shahayu hakarbanis lefisha. Now in the midbar they also had karbanis. They didn't have trumas and meiseris, but they had korban. But these karbanis were Lefi Sha'ah, this was a special time and a special place. But usually we can't give a korban outside of the place where Hashem chooses, especially once it's been chosen. According to understand that, we have to understand the pasuk. Not on bread alone does a person live, but on the word of Hashem. So Chassidus explains that it's the Dvar Hashem in the Lechem. It's the word of Hashem that's making the Lechem live. Making the Lechem have stuff in it that gives life. And therefore, when the person eats it, he's living from the Dvar Hashem within the Lechem. We have to understand, though, the person was also made with the Dvar Hashem. So, in general, in Parshas Vayigash and Torah, it explains that yes, but the person was made with the word of Hashem, but the sparks of Tohu that are found in the physical, that are found in the tzach, are in the inanimate objects and in the vegetables and in the animals, are actually higher than what's found in the medaber, in the person. And of course, that's only within the Seder Shtashlus, within the worlds. But Hashem's plan is that He created everything, of course, for people to use and to bring up to Hashem. So in the root of things, two roots up, the people are higher. But in the actual root down here, the inanimate objects have a source that's higher than the immediate source of the person. And this idea could be explained at great length, but we'll go on with the Maimer. The things that are inside of the objects of the world that are not people, these came from the 288 sparks that fell down in Shviras HaKelim when the vessels of Tohu were destroyed. Because the vessels of Tohu didn't get along and they weren't bottled to the purpose of Hashem's plan in totality. Of course, Hashem created them that way for an ultimate purpose. And the person comes from the Olam HaTikun, from the world where everything is. His soul comes from a source where godliness is in a way where everything is nullified to Hashem. So a person receives his life from the inanimate objects, his life force from the inanimate objects, and inside of them is a level of godliness that needs to be brought back up to the root of God. The because the root of the repach and the tzutzis are very, very high. So too, the coming down of the neshama into this world, specifically in this world, why does the neshama come down? It was serving Hashem up there too. True, the neshama waits thousands of years, or at least hundreds of years sometimes, to come down here, to prove itself to Hashem. But the reason for that is kedeli kafyelis itracher, is in order to crush the other side, and to overcome the physical, and to develop a relationship with Hashem that transcends everything. And through that the person crushes his desires, godliness, Hashem's light, and Hashem Himself comes out in a revealed way in all worlds in a much higher way. And that's like it says, Ki Yisrei Na'er Min HaCheshech. Chassidus explains this pasuk. Pasuk is Yisrei Chachma Min HaSichos Ka'er Min HaCheshech. That I've seen a greatness of Chachma, of wisdom over foolishness, like the greatness of light over dark. But Chassidus explains that the greatness of light comes from the dark. That the actual words are grammatically correct. That the greatness of the light is coming from the darkness itself. That when there's darkness, there's a higher light and a higher level that comes out. And just like a seed that is planted in the land, Shayidei harikov shenirkov nifsad ba'aretz utzameach achakach b'teisefes rav oki yisrin haruches. So it's also just like a seed. A seed falls apart, disintegrates into the ground, and through the fact that it disintegrates and it becomes completely nothing, it becomes bottled to the keach hatzemeach, the power to grow that's within the ground. It fertilizes the ground. And then what comes out, because the seed falls completely apart, and then what comes out from the seed that's been put into the ground and caused the keach of the ground to come forward, the seed, once it's fallen completely apart, plants that have thousands upon thousands of these seeds, and not just seeds, but the actual fruit or the actual crop itself. So too, when we crush the Sitra Achar, comes out a great light. Just like when the seed becomes nothing, so all of a sudden thousands upon thousands of seeds and more, and something completely different, the crops itself or the trees grow. Eliyahu Navi says, you made 10 tikunim, 10 tachshitim, 10 things in which you beautify yourself within the worlds. That's Hashem coming out into the worlds. For him above, it's a descent, but for us, it's something wonderful. And these are the 10 spheres with which Hashem creates and handles the world. To cause to lead the worlds, the hidden worlds, and then also reveal the worlds. But world itself means helam, concealment. There's a godly light, and then there's something concealing the godly light, concealing the fact that everything is part of Hashem. Physicality has no existence on its own. Spirituality can't create physicality. So how did the physical come about? The physical falls apart unless it's being held together by something higher. So the answer is that physicality is just a manifestation of the chayis from Hashem, from life from Hashem, that comes out in this new way, in a way that's physical. And it itself has no life force on its own. It's something that's being made by Hashem. And it proves that Hashem is higher than spiritual, because spirituality can't create physicality. But of course the physicality itself is much lower than the spiritual. But the fact that it's created shows that Hashem is not just in the spiritual context. When we bring that up, when we lift that up, we bring out a level of Hashem that's higher than spiritual. And that's why the physical work, the physical toil of mitzvahs, of Torah mitzvahs, is important. And that was the mistake of the Meraglim. Keirach made the opposite mistake. He said, just serve Hashem in the physical, if that's the main thing. And Meishis is fine, but you also have to use spiritual light. And that's the purpose of a person. In the morning, to get up to learn something, to daven, to pray, to feel the connection. Davening is not about smarts, it's about feeling and internalizing and living with Hashem. And then go out in the world and serve Hashem. Do business in a way that Hashem wants. Live your life in a way that Hashem wants. And then in the middle of the business, stop for a few minutes and do the mincha prayer. At the end of the day, also pray, learn something. And that way, you're leading a physical life, you're leading a practical life in the way that Hashem wants. You're doing what the Meraglim didn't realize was the purpose. But you're also imbuing it with spirituality at both ends and in the middle. There's a story of somebody who he was a big chassid and he wrote a cheshbon. He had to take account of his volume or how much he sold or whatever it was. He had to take account of how much he had earned, how much he had. And he writes at the end, when he's finished the account, instead of writing the total, he wrote, Einoid milvadei. There is none other than Hashem. And he said, if it's possible for a business thought to come into a person's head during learning, or chas v'shalom during davening, so let a thought of godliness come into the person's head during business, and not just that, but business can be used as a conduit to reach people, to inspire them to serve Hashem, to keep Torah mitzvahs, And then guess what? You're giving them something more, and they're more likely to do business with you. So the lesson of the Meraglim is to go out and make a world for Hashem, not to be afraid of anything. And then, Toiva Haaretz Ma'id Ma'id. Hashem doesn't just give blessings in the spiritual, but will give a double blessing in the physical.